In the late 20th century, Northern Ireland became the stage for a conflict that would grip the world. A bitter struggle that pitted neighbor against neighbor, religion against politics, and left scars that still linger to this day. They called it the Troubles. But what caused this decades-long conflict? What ignited the flames of division so fiercely that they burned for over 30 years? In this video, we'll uncover the roots of the Troubles, from the deep-seated tensions between Unionists and Nationalists to the political, social, and historical events that fanned the flames of conflict. Together, we'll explore how the past came to define a generation and why the echoes of this struggle still resonate today. Historical context: partition of Ireland. In 1921, Ireland was divided into two entities: Northern Ireland, which remained part of the United Kingdom, and the Irish Free State, later the Republic of Ireland. Northern Ireland's population was majority Protestant, but there was a significant Catholic minority who opposed partition. Sectarian divisions. Centuries of tension between Catholics and Protestants, dating back to English colonization and the Protestant Reformation, fostered a legacy of mistrust and inequality. Political and social inequalities, discrimination against Catholics. The Catholic minority in Northern Ireland faced systemic discrimination in areas such as housing, employment, and political representation. Unionist-controlled local councils often prioritized Protestants in housing allocations, and gerrymandering ensured Protestant domination of local politics. Voting rights. The use of property-based voting systems in local elections disenfranchised many working-class Catholics, leading to feelings of political exclusion. Inspired by the US Civil Rights Movement, Northern Irish Catholics began campaigning for equal rights in the 1960s. Groups like the Northern Ireland Civil Rights Association, or NICRA, organized marches demanding an end to discrimination and reforms in housing, voting, and policing. These protests were often met with violent opposition from the police, known as the Royal Ulster Constabulary, or RUC, and loyalist groups, exacerbating tensions. Escalation of violence. From 1968 to 1969, civil rights marches saw peaceful demonstrations attacked by loyalists and the Royal Ulster Constabulary, leading to widespread riots. The violent response further alienated Catholics and radicalized some within the community. The Battle of the Bogside in 1969 was a major confrontation in Derry between nationalist residents and the police, sparking widespread riots and marking a turning point. The British Army was deployed to restore order, initially welcomed by Catholics, but later seen as an occupying force. Meanwhile, armed groups like the Irish Republican Army and loyalist paramilitaries, such as the Ulster Volunteer Force, gained prominence as the conflict escalated into guerrilla warfare, bombings, and assassinations. Sectarian polarization. Communities became increasingly divided along religious and political lines, with peace walls erected to separate Catholic and Protestant neighborhoods. Daily life was marked by mistrust, fear, and sporadic violence, leading to a cycle of retaliation between paramilitary groups. International and political context. The Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom both claimed interest in resolving the conflict but had differing approaches. The Troubles also drew international attention, with Irish American communities and other groups supporting the Republican cause, while Britain maintained its commitment to Northern Ireland's Unionist population. Outcomes of the early Troubles. By the early 1970s, Northern Ireland had descended into widespread violence. Key events like Bloody Sunday in 1972, where British soldiers killed 14 unarmed Catholic protesters in Derry, further intensified the conflict. This period marked the transition from civil rights agitation to a full-scale sectarian conflict that would last for decades.